In this presentation we're going to take a closer look at the Design Technology GCSE from AQA. It has two major elements. It has a 2-hour written exam which you take at the end of year 11, which is worth 50% of the overall award, and then a non-examined assessment which starts at the end of year 10 and goes through into year 11, which is worth the other 50% of the award. The exam is all about core technical principles, specialist technical principles and designing and making principles, all set within the context of design technology, but it also will assess 15% of maths and 10% of science skills. The core technical principles are a mixture of multiple choice and short answer questions on breadth of understanding of a lot of different material areas, and we'll look at those in a little bit more detail later on. The specialist technical principles are focused on one material area, and they're a bit longer, a bit more extended responses. And then designing and making principles, which is half the paper, is a mixture of short and extended response questions about things like sustainability, the design process, specifications and that sort of thing. So the core technical principles are looking at new and emerging technologies, energy generation and storage, developments in new materials, the systems approach to design, mechanical devices and materials and their working properties. So that covers all of the different material areas of design technology, with the exception of food, which is a separate course, but it covers textiles, resistant materials, electronic products, mechanical systems and paper and boards. These areas, in fact. So we've got papers and boards, natural and manufactured timbers and materials, metals and alloys, polymers, which is another word for plastics, textiles, and electronic and mechanical systems. So you have a knowledge and understanding of all of those things. We cover all of that in the content of the course, and all of that will be examined in the exam paper. The specialist technical principles are looking at the selection of materials or components, looking at forces and stresses which might take place in design technology projects, the ecological and social footprint of materials, how they're sourced, how they are processed, how they're manufactured and how they're disposed of, and the sources and origins of materials. Now it all sounds quite complex, but you need a fairly limited understanding of all of those aspects. It's fairly superficial, so we don't go into a huge amount of depth about it, and the exam doesn't go into a huge amount of depth about it, but you need that breadth of understanding. Working with materials, stock forms, types and sizes, so what do you buy materials in, what does it look like when you get it? Different scales of production, from one-off production right the way through to continuous production. Looking at specialist techniques and processes for different materials, and then surface treatments and finishes for different materials. So how is it all structured? Well, during year 9 we'll look at the different material areas and we'll have a small project at each one, each of them addressing a different material and each of them looking at different aspects of the design process. That takes us through into year 10, and that will continue in year 10, so we'll be becoming familiar with the design process. We know how to research things, we know how to present things, we know how to develop ideas and prototypes. And then in June of year 10, the exam board will release their context for the final non-examined assessment. Now you only need to do that NEA in one material area of your choice, so you can focus in on woods and wood-based materials, you can focus in on polymers or a combination of them, or you can focus in on electrical and mechanical systems. You're not expected to do everything in the final prototype, and then that gets completed in year 11 and submitted to the awarding body for assessment. It's internally assessed, so I will do the marking and the exam board will do an external moderation, so they'll check my marking to see that it's accurate. You're also expected to produce a portfolio to support your work. So I've put a few slides together here of existing products or existing examples, and you can see the kind of depth that they've gone into. So they've looked at the context, which is identifying and investigating design possibilities of recycling. and looking at how you can make things to help you recycle for working towards a sustainable future. So you can see there's quite a lot of research gone into that in that mood board. You then take it on to looking at existing products and possibilities and evaluating them, so you're analysing them and evaluating them. Starting your own design sketches and analysing those too. You can see there's an awful lot of written work in there. The sketches aren't too difficult. They're well enough presented, but they are very well analysed, and they've got the negatives and the positives highlighted. Then you go on to modelling and prototyping out of card, very simple models. So you can see it being tested in context there in somebody's house. And then you go on to making the final prototype in hard material. So not just in flimsy bits of card, but in something that's a little bit more substantial, a bit more robust. And then, of course, you need to evaluate what you've done. So it's looking at the product in its context. How well does it work? What improvements could be made? So this is the only opportunity you'll have for designing things in the Design Technology Suite. The only other option is construction, where you are given a specification to work to. So if you're interested in designing things, if you're interested in expressing this artistic side of your nature, then this might be a good subject for you. It's not an easy subject, it's an exciting one, and it gives you an awful lot of possibilities. So if you have any questions, please drop me an email or see me in school and I'll try and answer them for you. And good luck in making your choices.